Hello, my name is Danette Roth, and I am here to discuss with you Anthony's evaluation scores. First, I will discuss the test that he was given, and then we'll discuss the purpose and results of those assessments and how they correlate to his special education needs. First, he was administered the Peabody Developmental Motors Scale, which is given to determine his motor development in the areas of fine motor skills and gross motor skills. He was administered the Goldman-Fritto 2, which is an assessment to examine his ability to produce different speech sounds. He was administered the Receptive Expressive Emergent Language, which is to identify a need for language and what function they are at. He was also administered the Adaptive Behavior Assessment System, which is a measure for adaptive skills. It is completed by both a teacher and a parent to determine a student's strengths and needs. He was administered the Kaufman Test of Educational Achievement, which assesses his academic skills. For the Peabody Developmental Motor Skills 2 test, he was administered that test in May of 2006. His current occupational therapist states he's made progress in the area of zipping his jacket, opening and closing his zipper on his backpack. He is able to open a milk carton, get his lunch tray, empty his lunch tray. He's able to form letters and numbers legibly. His attention to skills vary daily according to his focus and motivation that day. He is able to use utensils for eating. He does prefer a spoon, although all of his food is pureed at school. His mom, Becky, reports that Anthony is currently receiving outside occupational therapy services at home, and they work on his chewing and eating of foods. At home, they still chop his food into large chunks, and they do ask him to chew 25 times before swallowing. At school, the lunch staff purees his food, making it easier for him to swallow without choking. When we cook in the classroom, we puree his food as well. If it's something that's easily, we might use a potato masher. And if it's something that we can easily mash, we have him try. I know that he has a very limited diet, and there are some things he'll say he doesn't like. He prefers not to eat fruit, and he does not like any sweets. The Goldman-Fritto was administered in December of 2012. He obtained a standard score below 40 or less than 40. He did meet his goal of producing the K sound, the K sound in sentences. He's also worked informally on the G sound and is able to produce those sound in sentences 90% of the time with minimal cueing. He continues to produce articulation errors that negatively impact his intelligibility. Those errors include the j and ol blends. Anthony's speech intelligibility impacts others' ability to understand him as he communicates his wants, needs, and thoughts. He currently receives 90 minutes per week of speech and language therapy. I know that even when I was introduced to Anthony, when he's answering yes to a question, it sounds like let's. And at the beginning, I kept thinking he was trying to include like a group of people. Instead of saying yes, he was saying like, yes, let's go do that. He was administered the Receptive Expressive Emergent Language 3rd edition assessment. That indicated that he was administered that examination in May of 2006. His receptive score was 62. His expressive score was 57. And his total language was 51 on the non-speech test administered. His chronological age at that time was 2 years, 9 months. Now, this test was administered 12 years ago when he was beginning school or at the beginning of his academic career. His non-speech test was administered in May of 2010. His expressive and language equivalent at that time was 24 months. Currently, his speech and language reports he has met all his goals. He's able to answer questions orally. When he's presented short stories, he's able to answer them with 70% accuracy. He is able to provide sentences that contain a noun, a verb, and a direct object. When he's describing pictures, in 100% of the opportunities he was given, he has difficulty with higher level language skills such as inferring, predicting, comparing, and contrasting. He also struggles to initiate and maintain conversations, and he is unable to communicate his knowledge, and he has difficulty receptively gaining information at the same rate as his peers. A lot of times in his conversations, he will just say one word. So, for example, he'd say timer, and I would observe the teacher saying, "Oh, yes, Anthony, I have a timer." And she would wait, and then he would ask, "Can I have the timer?" And then she would wait again, and then he would say, "Can I have the timer, please?" And then she would respond. Um, Other times he has a friend in class, and he'd say, "Sit by," and his friend's name. And the teacher would correct him and say, let's make a good sentence." So a lot of his responses are very simple 1, 2, or 3 word responses. Um, it's very rare that he will initiate or even respond to somebody with more words than that without prompting or cueing. He was administered the adaptive behavior assessment system. Both his special education teacher and his mother completed that in 2012. His teacher had his conceptual score at 65, social 61, practical 57, and his global adaptive composite was 56. His mother, Becky, rated his score of conceptual skills at 53, social 55, practical 42, and his global adaptive composite was 42. His teacher reports that he struggles to follow directions and procedures independently. He oftentimes exhibits behaviors opposite of that to the directions he was given. I know that he does like to be funny in class, and so the teacher would say, Anthony Jr., let's line up for lunch, and he would sit there, or he'd start giggling, or he would start talking to, or he would try to get his friend's attention, or he would walk towards a friend instead of getting in line for lunch. He does require prompting to complete most of his classroom tasks, such as taking off his backpack, starting and completing work, lining up. I know in the morning when he comes in after getting off the bus, he stands in the hallway for an excessive amount of time, and they have to prompt him to come into the classroom. Once he enters the classroom, they have to prompt him to take his backpack off. They have to prompt him to take his coat off. They have to prompt him to get in line for breakfast. And this is a routine that they have done since he has been with them. So for 3 years, they have been doing this routine, and he still needs prompting to get through this routine in the morning. He is able to open his milk carton, and he is able to retrieve his lunch tray and empty his lunch tray. He does come in the morning with his oatmeal, and he's able to add the milk and the sugar to his oatmeal independently. He's able to throw the items away in the trash with that. Now he is able to do that without prompting, but when he has completed his breakfast, he does need prompting. Anthony, are you done with your breakfast? Anthony, what do we do when we're finished with breakfast? So he requires cueing and prompting to complete the tasks after breakfast. He was administered the Kaufman Test of Educational Achievement in January 2012. His word recognition score was 97. His reading comprehension was 73. A reading composite was 84. Math computation 67. Math application 61. Math composite 64. His spelling score was 68. Written language 60. Spelling 68. Written language composite 64. His special ed teacher reports he loves math and anything involving numbers. He is currently performing at a 2nd grade level in math. He does know his basic addition facts. He has those memorized. He is currently working on triple-digit addition with regrouping, which are his preferred problems. He can do double-digit subtraction with regrouping, and he's able to solve those at 60%. He is able to perform mixed operation problems. He has good memory. He is a good reader. He's reading approximately 70 plus words per minute at a third grade level, but he does struggle with comprehension questions. I do agree with the findings of Anthony's test scores. I do think that he qualifies for special ed services due to his, which one? Oh, the Peabody Developmental Motor Scales Assessment. He qualifies for occupational therapy services and physical therapy services. And then his receptive expressive emergent language scores, he would qualify for speech and language services. His speech is low enough that he would qualify for services. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you.